Coronado Surf and Lifestyle Museum, and we're sharing stories here at Bill Yurtis balsiabill Surf Shop. Been here how many years at this location?
23 years.
23 years. So I've known him, and we run kind of in a circle of surfing friends and collectors and stuff. And the thing about Bill is he's been there, done that. He's started surf brands, has helped numerous competitive pro surfers out. It's good stuff. So glad to be here and talking story with you. Asking a couple questions of getting a vibe from you. Where was it that you started surfing?
Well, I grew up on the beach in New Jersey. My grandpa bought a house, an oceanfront house in the 20s in a tax sale. And so
good prices.
Family, oh yeah, I think $600.
Yeah.
And the family, we spent our summers there.
Good family time.
It was an up and down stairs thing, and so he rented out the upstairs and we stayed in the downstairs, oceanfront. I never knew, I couldn't imagine what it would have been like to not be on the ocean front.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I rode my first wave on a surf mat when my dad came back from Korea in 1951 or 2. Pushed me into a wave that summer. And I go, wow, wow.
That feel and that push, it's nothing like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Can't
so,
explain it to me.
So and then people had started to surf in the 50s in New Jersey, but you had to make your own board. So it wasn't like you couldn't just go down to the surf shop and get a surfboard.
Corner market.
Because there was no surf shop.
Right. Yeah.
And so all the boards were homemade, made out of mostly styrofoam and epoxy, and made in the garage. And my neighbor had an 8-foot aquaplane. Now an aquaplane was a thing that you rode behind a boat. You had a rope that attached to the boat, and you had a rope that you held on to.
I remember that.
And that was pre-water skis.
Uh-huh.
And my dad, when he was a kid, had ridden that. But the neighbor had that. Well, when people started surfing, we got the neighbor's aquaplane, and we'd go out and try to ride it like a surfboard.
And you get rid of the ropes and stuff?
Yeah, the ropes are gone.
Yeah, almost like the roller skates for the skateboards. Is you just glue them onto a piece of wood.
And the thing was flat.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't, and every wave you took off on, you'd pearl, unless you go in soup.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a fin.
Uh-huh.
So if we try to stand up, and the thing would just go sideways.
A lot of dancing. Yeah.
And so I think he wound up, he put a skeg on it, and we did that for a while. But then in '61, we spent the summer in California. The family did. I went to California for a screen test for the part of Tom Sawyer for a TV series, which they never made.
Okay.
And the reason we went out for that was because I had been up for the part of Huckleberry Finn for the movie, MGM's movie, and I took second place to that, so I said, gotta go to California.
Uh-huh.
If I can get,
That's where it's happening.
if I can get second place for a major MGM movie, we need to go out there.
Uh-huh.
So we went out there, and while I was out there, that was in '61, and when you rode up and down Highway 101, that was California. There were hot rods running up and down the road with surfboards on top.
Uh-huh.
Pickup trucks with surfboards sticking out the back. Woodies, hearses, and it was like, whoa, there's something going on here.
Uh-huh.
And so we go up to Malibu, and Malibu was just packed. There was just surfboards everywhere. So we got back to New Jersey. I said, we can surf here. We have waves, and I know we have surfers. So that winter, my dad and I built a board from plans from a 1939. We didn't know any better, right? 1939 edition of Popular Science magazine, and it was
seeing what happened.
It was a Tom Blake wooden board, hollow, it was supposed to be 13.9, but we cut 2 feet out of the center.
Okay.
Because I was just a kid. He says, you don't need a board this long.
How you
We're
gonna
going to make
drag
a
this
shorter
into- yeah.
board, you know. And so it was, we cut it down to 11.9.
Down to 11 minus.
And the holes, and it was hollow, and it had battens in the center. And so he drilled extra big holes. He says, you know, this board's made for Hawaii, or you don't need to be that strong. So
Right.
to lighten it up, he drilled bigger holes in the battens. So if you consider it that way, I actually had the first short lightweight board
State of the art.
on the East Coast.
Right.
And so at that time, you had the homemade foam boards. You had these. There were other guys that rode these boards, these Tom Blake kind of paddle boards. And then you had people that were just starting to bring in boards from California. So you had the California. And so the guys where I wound up surfing, because my mom wouldn't let me surf alone.
That was my mom's rule.
And so
too.
in front of the house, there was nobody surfing. So I went to, there was a place down about a mile away, and a lot of guys would surf down there. So they had either wooden boards like this or foam boards. And the foam boards they called California boards,
Okay.
and the wooden boards they called Hawaiian boards. And I'm riding the Hawaiian board, right?
Yeah.
And so the guys riding the Hawaiian boards, I remember we're standing on the beach one day, and this guy takes off on a wave, and he's on a foam board. And he goes into our crouch to go across the wave, and they look at that. They said, no style, no style at all. They said, kid, don't ever get a California board. Stick with the Hawaiian board. It'll screw up your style totally. And of course, all I wanted to do was get a California board.
Right.
That's what I
Focus.
wanted.
Yeah.
So my first one was homemade in a
You
garage.
remember that one for sure.
Charlie Keller made it in his garage out of refrigerator foam, brown boat resin, plywood fin, and that
The things
board.
you had.
Oh, that was a great board. It was light
Yeah.
because the foam was real light,
Yeah.
and one layer of glass. Oh yeah, and I rode that the whole summer. But that first summer on that wooden board, it took me all summer to do a stand-up wave, because every wave you take off on the first 18 inches was solid wood. So you take off on a wave, and it would just
Torpedo.
hurl straight to the
Yeah.
bottom. Then it would come flying out and
Yeah.
spin around like that.
And if there was wind,
So-
it was just.
Oh, it would just spin. So the first thing you had to do was get down like
Yeah.
this until you heard it go whoa,
Uh,
and then you come up and look for your board.
yeah.
But the next year, and then after that, I worked at Keller's Surf Shop. I got a job working there. That next summer in '64, I started working there. I think
And what town was that in?
Lavallette, New Jersey, where I grew up, and so I got a Greg Knoll at the end of the summer. It took forever to get it. In fact, I had to ride. I'd sold my board, and I had to ride a pop-out rental for a while until my Greg Knoll came in. And that board was
Chopping at the bit. Like,
beautiful. Oh, it was so beautiful. It was just fabulous. And I rode that. And then the next one, we had Gordon and Smith was our
The
other
boards that were
brand,
being
our
delivered
other
there.
brand that we were selling. Yeah.
So I got to actually jump back to something.
But I got a Hinson model,
A
Mike Hinson model.
Oh yeah. Jonas
Hinson.
Henson.
Hinson. H-Y-N-S-O-N. Mike
Right.
Hinson.
Okay.
Where do you know Mike Hinson from?
Uh,
Come on, think hard. Did you ever hear of a movie called The Endless
and the star.
Summer?
Oh yeah. Ding. Yeah.
He was one of the stars of The Endless Summer. In fact,
Right.
he signed that poster up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
Okay, this is kind of an interesting board for several reasons. It's I estimate it to be about a 1964 Hobie. Notice it's got solid color pigment, red and green, it's got a large decal and a small decal. It's got a fiberglass nose block and a fiberglass tail block. And if I flip it over, it's got the same thing on the bottom, okay? Big decal. And so what's interesting is there's no serial number, there's no signature. People say, well, who signed the board? In the 60s, nobody signed anything,
No.
okay? And the reason they didn't was because it was a Hobie. And he had all kinds of people shaping. And the shapers, the guys who built these boards, the brand, the people that own the brands, they didn't want the shapers to get a name. And plus, they were all using the same shapers. They were going from label to label. So, but this particular board, Hobie had, at the time, he had Phil Edwards shaping there. He had Terry Martin.
Full class act.
He had Ralph Parker and Velzy shaped there for a while. And for a while, he had Mike Hinson of Endless Summer fame. And Hinson, I think that Mike Hinson shaped this board. Oh, by the way, if there's no serial number on a board, it was probably a personal or a team board. And this looks like a team board with all the extras. It's a lot of extras.
Yeah, a little more of a pulled-in nose than a lot of them at that time.
Not necessarily. It's about the right shape. But the reason I say it's a team board, when I say extras, all this color and the nose blocks, tail blocks, and the extra decals, that all cost extra money. If you were to order this board, that would be that would be like getting all the
Cadillac.
yeah. So this board has a lot of extras. The color, solid with 2-color tape off. It has nose blocks, tail blocks, fiberglass nose blocks, tail extra decals. It's got, usually a board would have one decal. Well, this has got a big decal on the bottom, a small one up there, and another, on the bottom. I showed you the bottom, it had the same thing. So this looks like a team board or a personal. And the reason I say that, if it doesn't have a serial number, it was probably a team board or a person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that
Which
said,
meant it didn't start with an order card.
yeah. So with a board like this, stock in the surf shop racks, what would this board go for?
In California, and more here because of the freight.
And then you would add on like 80 or 100 because it's such a big jump.
But
for the
here's
build
what
cost.
makes me think that Mike Hinson shaped this board. The rails. Look at the rails.
50-50 pinch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ralph Parker didn't shape rails like this.
And
Terry
it might have
Martin
been,
didn't shape rails like this. Phil Edwards didn't shape rails.
if you're thinking that it might have been a team board, is that might have been a prototype per se, and they were seeing the rails and liking it, or
this is the way
performing?
Mike Hinson learned to shape rails at GNS.
Okay.
And GNS always has thin rails. And Mike's were especially thin and pinched.
Okay.
So
yeah.
this was made for somebody, they would never want to sell a board like this to somebody that just walked in off the street.
Okay.
Or some normal surfer that ordered a board. They would never, because they would be too hard to ride. So this board is about 21 and a half inches wide. I think it's 2 3/4 inches thick, which is real thin.
And that back in those days, that's like drastic.
Oh yeah, it was
That's
drastic,
drastic,
and these
yeah.
rails are drastic.
Yeah.
So that's the only indication I have that Mike Hinson shaped it, because those are Hinson rails. So there you go. See that poster? The Surfaris? Okay. See the guy playing bass there? A guy named Jay Truax. So he calls me one day and he goes, asking me questions about ukuleles. By the way, is it ukulele or ukulele? It's either one, it doesn't matter. And you can say either, it works. Okay, so he goes, yeah, he's asking me, I said, well, do you know anything about music? Are you a musician? He said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm the bass player for the Surfaris. And so he sent me that poster, and I happen to have that album cover and the single for Wipeout, okay? And so, so I put that all together, and they had re-recorded a lot of their stuff, and I sold the CDs here for a while, back in the days when people were still buying CDs. And so, so I put that together in a little thing there. That's a poster from when I used to show one of my movies I called A Way of Life, a surfing adventure. Okay, let's go over here. And a summer poster signed by Mike Hinson, Robert August, Bruce Brown, Paul Strow, Corky Carroll. Some of them started to fade. I can't really tell who else was there. Anyway, this is my surf team in Hawaii. At our favorite surf break, number 3s. If somebody comes into my store and asks me what kind of board they should have, and I tell them, and they go, well, the guy down the street told me I should get a 710 or something, I go, ask the guy down the street to show you a picture of his surf team in Hawaii. Another board up here. Okay, well here's the deal on it. Ole was a shop teacher in high school. And he also had, on the side, he had a surfboard company in Surfside, California. And one day, Ole cut off his thumb on a bandsaw in the shop. And he lost his balance. And so what did he do? He cut off his other thumb. So now he had balance. And when I met Ole, I used to call on him selling wax at his surf shop in Surfside in the late 60s. And the first thing I did when I met him was look down to see if he had both thumbs.
And
he didn't. So that was
clarified the balance.
The story was true. And so the last time I saw Ole was in Costa Rica at the Greg Knoll
invitational thing or whatever.
Yeah, the Greg Knoll Surf Legends thing, whatever he had. And so Ole was there. But Ole, 90 years old, still shaping.
Yeah.
In Maui. Ole sadly lost his house and his shop in the fire. And so, but he's still there. He can still shape a surfboard.
He's the oldest shaper on the planet.
Well, or maybe Yater, who's also 90 and still shaping. I got a Yater last year. Because I said, if he's 90 and still shaping, I better get one of those. And he does still shape them.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then this one is...
and he also makes boards for all the Duke restaurants, and he's got a whole thing going on out there still.
Which one?
Ole.
Ole, okay.
Yeah.
And this is Surfboards by Murphy. Jack Murphy had 2 brands. He had Surfboards by Murphy, and before that he had Murph the Surf custom boards. And there's a picture there of his old shop. These boards, Surfboards by Murphy, these were actually made by Campbell Surfboards out in the out by the airport here in Melbourne. There's a Bunger up there, made by Charlie Bunger in New York. You're asking me about cars.
Just getting this posted.
There's the picture. There's the picture from that contest.
Uh-huh. And there's this guy, balsiabill.
So that board up there, that is a Channon Diffenderfer. That was Bruce Veluzzi's pipeline gun.
All blue pigment on the bottom.
Probably.
Yeah. And super nice pin line.
And this is a This is a Hannon made in New York, early 60s.
Nice big fin on that too. Now that number on there, is that
That was the number of the model
of the model? Yeah.
for some unknown reason. So you asked me about cars. There I am, and that was about 1980 with my 39 Ford Woody wagon with the 327 Corvette motor.
All right, so kind of a great tour. Thanks for spending the time and sharing with us all the great stories and the boards. Ever since I've come in here for years, I've always hit in the candy store, looking up. Yeah. So so to network more and share the stories. If you guys have any boards, or if you see any boards that you grew up with in the the Coronado Surf and Lifestyle Museum of anything, feel free to contact me, and then also contacting Bill. You got to come by a shop. Just super good vibe here. When is it that you're going to retire?
From what?
He hasn't started.
What?
So he's had a great life of a great lifestyle, and still, he's right here at the beach, and good vibes always. So hit the subscribe button, and if you want to give us all your information, your website.
balsiabill.com.
Yeah.
balsiabill.com. Just go there and find everything you need.
Yeah. Good stuff. Beautiful day.